I have built a machine which can kill the Ender Dragon with only one arrow, and I'll show you how you can too. Before we get into how it works though, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, and if you want to see more content like this, please consider checking out some other videos on this channel or subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind. The basic premise is quite simple. Arrows do more damage the faster they're moving, so by detonating 260 TNT just behind the arrow, it's possible to accelerate it to speeds capable of dealing a little over 400 damage to any mob it hits at incredibly long ranges. The Ender Dragon only has 200 health, but hitting any part of it except for the head deals 1/4 of the normal damage, so you need to essentially do 800 damage, and that's why bow's enchanted. Power adds a multiplier for the damage of an arrow, so the power 3 enchantment essentially doubles the damage the arrow does, making it easily do enough to kill the dragon. End crystals only update and spawn the dragon when they're placed down, so if we place these 3 here as normal, we can place this one here and break the block under it, then push it into place with the piston without updating it. If we then place an end crystal anywhere else, the 4 original ones update and start spawning the dragon. We can detect if an end crystal has been placed on this block by putting a pressure plate on top of this fence and an armor stand on top of the pressure plate. The armor stand interacts with the crystal's hitbox to cause this pressure plate to give an output, which we run through this long line of repeaters to activate the cannon and fire the arrow at exactly the right moment to hit the dragon just as it spawns. When this observer gives an output, these pistons align the arrow along the horizontal axes and then drop it down onto this slime block, which launches it back up after a short delay. These pistons are also activated and send a signal upwards to activate the TNT duper, which we will talk about soon. We need to align the arrow along the horizontal axes, since, even when standing completely still, bows have a random element to their aim, and it's impossible to simply shoot 2 arrows into the same spot reliably. Making sure the arrow is in the exact same position each time ensures that, since the TNT is also aligned into the exact same position each time the cannon fires, the arrow will always hit the target block with 100% accuracy. We'll talk about how to aim it later. First, let's talk about the TNT duper. As you can see when I activate it, each side produces 130 TNT each. If we add fence gates at specific points underneath the TNT, you can see that when we activate it, even though the exact same amount of TNT is produced, multiple TNT entities are aligned into the same positions. This overall makes the total alignment of all 260 TNT into one block a lot easier. If we add slime blocks right here and activate the pistons at a specific time after the TNT duplicates, we can launch the TNT over to the glass wall. If we also add slime blocks here and slime blocks with trapdoors on top here to essentially catch the TNT, we can juggle the TNT back and forth horizontally and align it into a straight line made up of 13 blocks. These blocks will align themselves on the glass pillar until all 130 TNT is compressed into one block down here. These pistons once again activate at specific times to push the TNT from both sides into one block of TNT, which falls into this water and detonates. This piston activates slightly before that to launch the arrow upwards, so that it reaches the peak of its flight just as the TNT blows up, propelling it away at great speeds. Since the arrow isn't centered exactly on the slime block though, it won't shoot straight out of the railgun. We can, however, find the block it will hit using the 2 linear formulae on screen now. To use them, first we need to know that this block with the ladder in it is the block which the arrow was airborne in when the TNT detonates. We will call this the origin block. The 2 formulae show the horizontal and vertical offset of the arrow as it travels away from the origin block. So when we put this first formula for horizontal offset into a graph, the x-axis shows the distance of the arrow from the origin, and the y-axis shows the horizontal offset of the arrow from the origin. So for example, when the arrow has moved 400 blocks away from the origin point, it will be 75.369 blocks to the left of the origin point. It's the exact same for the other formula, so when the arrow is 400 blocks away from the origin point, it's also 32.883 blocks above the origin point. So, since I want to shoot the dragon from 200 blocks away, and the spot where the dragon spawns is at 0, 129, 0, I can use the graph to determine that 200 blocks from the origin point, the arrow will have a horizontal offset of 37.985 and a vertical offset of 16.682, making the location of the origin block for the cannon minus 37.985, 112.318, minus 200, which you can round to minus 38, 112, minus 200. One thing to note about the vertical graph is that it's only accurate up to 1000 blocks or so. This is because Newton decided to invent gravity to stop everyone from floating about, so the arrow loses height as it moves forwards, and therefore it's impossible to always know the exact height of the arrow with the simple linear function. You shouldn't need to shoot an arrow more than 1,000 blocks though, no matter what you're doing, so I haven't developed a more sophisticated formula for it. Anyway, now that you know how it works, here's a time-lapse showing you how to build it. The quartz block represents the origin block. And there you go. Now you can build a machine that can kill the Ender Dragon with only one arrow. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.